Well, you go through your life, you raise your children, and at some point, they may become angstful. Maybe there's a blow up at your house over whatever. Generally, these are blow ups that occur when things just sort of build and build and build, and then it's the camel back thing. And you become estranged. There are many reasons why children are estranged from parents, and Dr. John Braccio joins us today as always. Doc, it's great to have you on your morning wake up again.
Well, listen, always good to talk to you, Mike. And I'll tell you, it really is surprising how many children are estranged from their parents. We're talking even 20% or more. And the thing that's something that the children sometimes won't even tell their parents why, okay?
Right.
And in many cases, even seemingly small problems in communication can result in total or limited lifelong parental estrangement. And the following would be the common reasons that this occurs. The obvious would be a child sexual abuse, child physical abuse, child emotional abuse. But we're looking like ongoing emotional abuse, just kids really just don't want to be involved with their parents. There can be religious differences. There can be political differences. Non-involved parent, like a parent who's not even been involved or very little involvement. Child just isn't interested in being involved. Or late in life arriving parent, someone, here I am, haven't been around, but here I am now and want to be involved. Then the over-involved and negative parenting. You'll find this is more common than you might think, too, that someone who you felt was negative in the parenting with you all of a sudden wants to use the same techniques with your children. And the idea is, no, just, stay away. Financial issues, communication problems between parent and spouse or family of the family of the child. It could be the part of the family marrying in the spouse or other relatives.
Oh, yeah.
That can lead to a lot of problems. There can be a substance abuse. There can be the feeling of a sibling preference, like I was always the downtrodden and treated unfairly.
You were mom's favorite, yeah.
But listen, more of that than you might think. Hear it all the time. And then perceived brainwashing, felt things were really being pushed on them. So it's really more common than we might really think, that how many kids have very minimal or don't have contact with the parents. And it's very difficult, I believe, for parents who don't understand. And we're in an age, too, where when people look back, they can see that parents may be from the current mores, live by a different standard or whatever it might be. Yeah. So things that might have been perceived in the past as not that negative are perceived now as that negative. So there's just a lot of conflict, a lot of issues that can relate to other family members, can relate to one of the parents, and sometimes it can lead to the child not being with either parent, even if they're particularly mad at one parent. So it's a difficult thing, and I see it in my work where people really are, pained and really feel bad that they have no contact. But kids have put up barriers and have decided for their own mental health or for whatever reason that they're just not going to be involved. A kind of a view that you begin to see more and more that, kids come through us, obviously, not necessarily to us, in the sense that we want to build a relationship, we want to have a good one, but it doesn't always work that way. People have different chemical makeups, different views of the world. They grew up differently. So it's an issue, concern, and not always easy, if not impossible, to put the genie back in the bottle once this situation occurs, Mike.
You've mentioned communication a couple of times here. I think that's the base of a lot of stuff. Any relationship has to start with communication, open and honest communication, and humility. I think you've touched on that before. A lot of these, Doc, though, these seem to, child sexual abuse, physical abuse, non-parent involved. A lot of these come from the parent side. What about the kid side, the child side? Because, as they grow, they get angstful maybe. They can become emotionally detached, I think. And then a parent can try to, hey, how was your day today? You know what I mean? And it ends up coming, it can be on the child side too, right?
Well, of course it can. It can work both ways, because if you have two different people of how they approach life, how they develop relationships, how they develop friendships. And if there's always been conflict in the home, okay, always like, parents saying do this, the other person doesn't want to do it, they have conflict. You run into these conflicts that people have. And then and then on top of that, there could be borrowing money, there can be finances, there can be a lack of support. And again, the child can be the one who's unreasonable. It isn't always that the parent's the one who's always unreasonable, because it takes two to tango, as the old saying goes. But when you have people that, even if they grew up in the same home, children, parents, they see life differently. They can disagree, and there are parents that are unreasonable. They're demanding, they're expecting, or they are trying to change people, and people that don't want to change, aren't going to change, are going to go their own way. And there's no predictability here. You can have a controlling parent that the child doesn't mind that. They don't mind. They'll be always looking for guidance or support, even if it is a good controlling person. You can have someone who's more laissez-faire, and then the person resents that too. I mean, so you can't always predict how people are going to interact. But we do know in a mobile society where people don't have to be together, that there are a lot of children that choose to have very minimal contact with their parents. And again, yes, you mentioned before, there are parents that choose to, kids are 18, change the locks, move them out, and don't want to have much contact either. So it's it can be very, very sad, I'd say, for millions of parents, that children just want very little or nothing to do with them. And even if they try, and it finally gets to the point that people are estranged, they may have very minimal contact, see them once or twice a year, maybe not see them. And now in the more severe cases, the sexual abuse, the physical abuse, severe emotional abuse, those are ones you might expect that there would be no contact. But there are others that political, religious, not being perceived as being involved in their lives, the late arriving, all of a sudden I want to become involved, or angry persons on how they were raised, and then the grandparent, they worry they're going to treat their children the same way, but it would be the grandchildren. So it's a mess. It can be a very, very difficult thing, Mike. And I'm sure you see the same thing too. It's as we walk the road of life, these are pretty standard type of things, and it's hard to put the genie back in the bottle again, as I said before, because I've worked with trying to get people back together when they're trying. If both are already trying, they can. But if you get people together and they can, the triggers are there. I didn't really do that, and you have to be willing to listen. And you don't have to even fully agree. You just want to find out, what is the issue? Why are we having this problem? And is there a way that we can try to come to a compromise and work some things together? And I have found over the years it can be very, very hard to do that. And when you have in-laws that don't get along, you can have a spouse holding back, not, kind of causing the issue with the parents, saying, well, I don't care for them, they've never liked me, and, kind of choosing if you're going over there, it's you're disrespecting me. So there's all kinds of areas that there can be confusion, or you can have parents that never helped a person financially when they really needed some help, and then later on there's resentment. So there's just 100 different things that can cause issues. But the nice thing is, of course, the vast majority of people do get along and find a way to get along. But it may not be a huge percent, but it's huge numbers actually when you look at these types of conflicts, Mike.
Life is short. Life is short.
Yes,
Make the best of it. Dr. John Braccio, every Tuesday joining us, Doc. We appreciate your efforts and your expertise. As always, have a marvelous day, okay?
Same to you, my friend. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye now. 1320 WILS. Your morning wake up back in a minute.